Hey everybody! So I discovered this amazing recipe for New York style cheesecake, and actually two amazing recipes that I have converted or merged into one. So it is Easter weekend and we are going to my sister's for family dinner. And I thought this was a perfect time to make it for the third time and wow people. So I'm going to make it with you so you all can see what I did and why it is so yummy and delicious. So I started off with 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs. So there's my 2 cups. I've already measured it out. Oh, actually I didn't want to do that. I want to, normally when I make cheesecake, I make the crust all in the same thing to save on dishes. But obviously I'm making this for you guys to see. So I'm going to make it in here first and then I'm going to press it in. I have already washed my hands, so don't worry about that. You can use whatever honey graham cracker crumbs that you want. I'm just using the cheap ones today because I was feeling cheap. No, really, because they didn't have the honey-made honey graham cracker crumbs that I really like. So it doesn't really matter. As long as they're honey graham cracker crumbs, that's what matters. And then I have already melted 6 tablespoons. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And that is the key. It must be unsalted butter, okay? Salted butter, 1, you don't need it. But 2, for baking, it adds salt to your ingredients that sometimes will wreck your recipe. So whenever you see butter in a baking recipe, make sure you use unsalted unless it specifically says salted. Next thing, I need a tablespoon of sugar. Now, cheesecake, and I didn't realize this until I started making the New York style cheesecakes, are full of sugar. Most baked goods are, but you don't realize how much until you actually start making them from scratch. So I've got 1 tablespoon of white sugar, and then, I love cinnamon in almost everything I bake. And I'm going to throw a heaping tablespoon of cinnamon in this. Now, this is something I had never seen before when making a crust recipe, is adding cinnamon. But I will tell you, it makes the crust so much more tasty and delicious. And I just think it does something for this cheesecake. So that is something that I've incorporated into these New York style cheesecake recipes. So I'm just mixing it all together. Sometimes I use a spoon because the butter is hot. I did just take it out of the microwave and I don't want to burn my fingers. So I typically will mash it in first with a spoon, and then I will use my fingers because I just find it mixes so much better. So I'm just going to mix this all up now with my hands to make sure that it gets all nice and moist. I love that word moist, eh? Or not, depending on who you are. So now I'm going to just throw it all in here. So this is what your crust will look like inside your spring form pan. Very important to do this in a spring form pan because you are going to actually be popping the cheesecake out of this later on. So now I've got the oven warming up at 375 degrees, and I'm going to stick this in there for 10 minutes. But while this is in there for 10 minutes, we're going to make the ingredients that are yummy. I'm going to go inside this. So my filling, this is where cheesecake gets really expensive. And now I totally understand why they charge you $10 for a slice in a restaurant. If it's real cheesecake, this is why. We need 4 packages of cream cheese to go in here. And I'm going to turn this on to a 1. And we're going to cream this up. And hopefully this isn't too loud. Hopefully you can still hear me. But you definitely don't want it any higher than a 1 because you want it to cream up at a low speed, not a high speed. High speeds create air pockets and you don't want air pockets in your cheesecake. And I add 1 brick at a time. Again, 4 bricks. And if anybody buys cream cheese on the regular, you'll know how expensive cream cheese is. So, you know, $20 just went into this pot. Well, no, well, maybe $16 because I think it's $4 now at the stores. Because, you know, everything goes up. The price of tax on all the gas and everything just keeps making the food prices rise up on us. So we've got 4 packages. And it doesn't matter what cream cheese you use. You can use the cheapest brand. You can use the most expensive brand. It really doesn't matter. It's cream cheese. And with all the ingredients you're going to add on top of it, it's going to be yummy anyway. So if you're on a budget, use the cheapest cream cheese possible. Now, and the cream cheese, very important, it has to be at room temperature. Otherwise, you're not going to get a nice creamy texture. Okay? Now next, here we go with the sugar again. Sorry for anybody who is on a diet or is a health nut. You really don't want to make this because it is so not good for your waistline. Because we're going to add 2 cups. So there's 1 cup. I'm going to pour this in as the mixer is going. Cup number 2. Here we go. Watch our waistlines expand as I do this. Anyway, that's it for our sugar now. So we've got our sugar in there, 2 cups of sugar. We've got our 4 packages of cream cheese. It is, I don't know if y'all can see, but it is spinning lovely and looking nice. And that's how it's going to look, okay? So we've got that. Now we're going to add, and this was a weird ingredient for me when I first read it. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. Again, white flour, all-purpose flour. It doesn't have to be any special flour. So there's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. Now, typically when baking, you want to make sure you measure off, especially if you're making bread. Super important that it's absolutely perfect. Cheesecake, close enough. It doesn't have to be perfectly swiped off. So there's 3 tablespoons of flour in there. And now we need vanilla extract. If you've got pure vanilla, use pure, because I like the purest of pure ingredients, but I still have some artificial vanilla extract in the cupboard, so I'm going to use that. And I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And vanilla extract just really adds a nice flavoring to your stuff. There's 1, 2, 3, and there's 4. And as you notice, I still have not changed the speed. Vanilla extract, done. So just to give you an idea of what it's looking like, that's what it's looking like. So now we are going to add a teaspoon of lemon zest. So I have this wonderful little thing. It's from Tupperware. I know. I'm a Tupperware girl. I'm a Pampered Chef girl. I like my kitchen utensils and I like them to be good. I've already washed this lemon, given it a scrub. So now I'm just going to zest. This is a great tool because all the zesting goes right into the inside of this. See, it catches it nice. But I need a teaspoon of lemon zest. So I'm going to take that, take my teaspoon. I'm going to just push it down. See, I'm just pushing it down, packing it in there. So I can actually shove a little bit more in there. I don't want to waste it. And of course, I got some extra little zest there, so I'm going to pull from there as well. Pack it down. Roll her in. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into this ramekin. Because I'm probably, if this lemon is nice and fresh, going to get more than I actually need of lemon juice. Which is fine. The leftovers I can just pour into my glass of water. Have a refreshing drink afterwards. Ooh. There we go. Let's see. I think we might be close with that. So I need 2 teaspoons of this lemon juice. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's 1. And there's 2. And as you can see, I still have some lemon juice left over, which I'm going to use later on in my water. And I need a 1/4 teaspoon of iodized salt. Thank goodness, not much. Especially with all the sugar in there. Oh, shoot. There we go. We're going to say that that's about a 1/4 because some of it's spilled in there. And that happens. Oh, my timer's gone. So I have removed the crust from the oven. You can see it doesn't look a whole lot different, but it is a little bit browner and crispier. So I'm just going to set this off to the side to cool. The other key step is once I've removed that from the 375-degree oven, is I turn the heat down to 325 while I continue to make the rest of the cheesecake, because the cheesecake needs to go in the oven at 325. So now we are on to our egg. And, you know, because sometimes cracking an egg, you get a shell in it, I like to crack it in something beforehand and then put it in. That way, if there's any shells, I can remove them. And look at that. Egg number 1. Already got myself a shell. Here we go. Remove. And we're going to add the eggs one at a time. That is super important with this recipe, to do things one at a time. And egg number 6. I like to scrape out as much of the egg as I possibly can. Hold on. So all 6 eggs are now in there. Now here is another thing that totally took me by surprise. The secret ingredient, sour cream. Never in a million years did I think there'd be sour cream in a cheesecake because it tastes so yummy. We need 1/2 cup of sour cream. So we are now at the final stages of the mixing. Voila. Set that there, set that there. Now what we are also going to do is we are going to scrape the bowl, because I don't know if you can see or not, but it gets stuck on the edges here. So we're just going to scrape the bowl. So I'm going to stop this for a second. I'm going to lift it. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? I'm going to stick my hand in here and just scrape the bowl. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it back on for just a minute, another minute or two, and then we are going to pour it into our crust. We're going to wrap this in tin foil. And the reason why we're going to wrap this in tin foil is because we're actually going to bake this in our roasting pan. And once we put this in, we're going to put water in our roasting pan, and it helps the cheesecake stay together. We're basically cooking it or baking it in a bath, but we don't want any of the water to seep into our spring foam pan. It's still warm. So, we're just gonna wrap it. Kind of pretty now. There we go. Put our spring foil pan now. Hello. That. All right. So this is what our sauce now looks like. And we're just going to pour that in. Look at that. It smells good. It smells like lemon. It smells all lemony. So if you want to make some variations like a lemon raspberry cheesecake, basically follow this again. Maybe add a little bit more lemon to it, and then just throw your raspberries in. Delicious. But we're not making raspberry lemon cheesecake today. We're just making cheesecake, and then I'm going to simple syrup and boil down some fruit to go on top of it. And simple syrup is equal parts water to sugar. And you just dissolve the sugar in the water, bring it to a boil, and then take it off the burner, stick it in a mason jar. You can keep it in the fridge, I believe up to 2 to 3 months, and makes great daiquiris. But you can also mix it with fresh fruit or frozen fruit, and it makes excellent sauces to pour over your ice cream or cheesecake in this case. So we now have our cheesecake ready to go in the oven. You can see it's all here. So we have now finished pouring the water in. We've got about 1 inch of water in here. So we got still 3 to 4 inches of our spring foam pan exposed to no water. And this is called a water bath. And we're gonna bake our cheesecake in the water bath at 325 degrees in the oven for anywhere from 1 hour to 90 minutes. If you're using a perfect convection oven, then it'll be closer to the hour. If you're not using a perfect convection oven, you're probably closer to the 90 minutes. You'll start to notice when it solidifies, it's no longer liquidy, and you've got it's just starting to go golden brown. That's when you take it out. If it's still liquidy and brown on the top, cover it with tin foil and keep it in there a little while longer. See you once it's done. So, as you can see, without tipping it too far, it did crack a bit. And that is what the water bath is supposed to help do. Now what we need to do is let it cool for approximately 45 minutes. Make sure you put it somewhere that the heat can circulate, or the cool air can circulate all the way around it. And you let it cool in the water bath. And it should bring those cracks back together. Now with simple syrup, you use the same amount of water as you do sugar. So I'm going to use 1.5 cups of water. I'm just going to pour that into my pan here. And I'm going to bring that up to a boil. And once it reaches boil, I am going to add 1.5 cups of white sugar. And while I'm doing that, because I had some berries in the fridge that probably not going to get to before they go bad, I'm just going to cut up a couple of berries and add it to the mixture. So the water has come to a boil. You can hear that. So I'm just going to add my sugar. That's 1 cup. And then I need to add another 1/2 cup. Then that's about 1/2 cup. Throw that in there. And I like to use a whisk to whisk it up. And I bring it back to a boil. As you can see, I'll bring it to clear. Doesn't take long, just bring it back to another boil. As you can see, all the sugar is dissolved. And that, friends, how you make simple syrup. So normally I would take it off and let it cool, and then I'd throw it in a mason jar and keep it in the fridge. And anytime I want to have a daiquiri or something else that I might use simple syrup in, then I would take it out and use it then. But it's always ready to go. But because I'm actually going to use it to make a fruit sauce, I'm just going to add my berries. So, I don't know, that's probably 1 cup or so of strawberries that I just threw in there. Blueberries. And then, because I really love the berry blend, and you can use any berry blend, doesn't matter. Throw in all these berries. And you can make this as many berries as you want in there. Depends on how loaded you like to make your sauce. You just stir it. It takes about probably 5 to 10 minutes to make it exactly how I want it. You can add more or less berries depending on how you like it.